Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we are learning how to be Krishna conscious now so we can be Krishna conscious when we leave our bodies. We're learning how to prepare for the final exam, Ante Narayana Smriti. And everything that we've been reading in these classes has been telling us see Krishna everywhere and everything, be Krishna conscious all the time, and then the time of death, naturally you'll think of Krishna. So now everything is a practice for Krishna consciousness. I was thinking earlier today that everything that we're studying, that you might think, yes, it sounds good, but I'm not that Krishna conscious, and I probably won't go back to Godhead, and I probably won't think of Krishna in this life, and all the negatives. So I was thinking, but if you think of the story of Ajamil was all negative. And the story of Ajamil is meant to show that the potency of the holy name works in spite of the person. So, we may think, well, I'm not qualified. So, one sense, yes, that's true, we're not qualified. But the holy name doesn't look for qualification. The holy name looks for sincerity. So despite our disqualification, the holy name is pure. And so we have to see things through what's coming to us, not what we're creating, but what's coming to us is something pure. It's just like there's certain kinds of soaps. Well, I'll give an example. Or give an example of how pure the holy name is. And sometimes we think, well, it won't work on me because I'm very impure. There's a toothpaste called Patanjali you get in India, and it's my favorite toothpaste. And seriously, if you just put that toothpaste in your mouth and you don't even brush your teeth, it cleans your teeth. It's that powerful. As soon as it touches your teeth, it cleans them like instantly. So the holy name is a little bit like that it touches something dirty, because the holy name is pure, it immediately cleans it. So although we think, maybe I'm not qualified, maybe I won't be Krishna conscious when I die, etc. But still, don't think of it in terms of your qualification. That's better to think it in terms of the qualification of the holy name. You may be dirty, but this soap can clean anything. Yeah, but I have all this grease on inside my fingernails. No, the soap can clean it. It's not so much about your dirt, it's more about the soap, and if you use the soap properly, it'll work. So these are some thoughts I was having based on the idea that sometimes people think, I'm not that Krishna conscious, I won't think of Krishna at the time of death, it's probably going to take me many lives, etc., etc. It may be from ordinary thinking that's true. But when you understand how pure the holy name is, that the holy name can purify the dirtiest of the dirtiest, then you realize, well, it's not so much about me being qualified. And it's not so much that if I'm disqualified, I can't become Krishna conscious. It's all about the holy name is qualified. I may not be qualified. The holy name is qualified to purify me. So that's how we have to see it, rather than see, I'm so unqualified. That may be true, but if you take the holy name properly, the holy name is qualified to purify you. So I just wanted to start with that thought, and then we'll chant Jai Radha Madhava, and that gives time for other devotees to join and put us in meditation on Vrindavan, because this is practice for dying. You meditate on Vrindavan. So let's meditate on Vrindavan. And then we'll be, let's meditate on Vrindavan. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Thai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bo Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvise Sasunyavare Paschachita Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We left off reading yesterday from, what was the last thing we read? We were reading from LCDL, which we're not sure what it is, but it could be life comes from life, but somehow the D got in there instead of an F. So yeah, that's possible because the F is next to the D. So it's probably life comes from life. And now we're reading from Beyond Birth and Death. And this is from the second chapter of that book. So welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining. Kamini is going to put up this quote. And for those of you who haven't been attending, I've researched things Prabhupada said about the time of death. Not death in general, because there's so much about that, but particularly leaving your body, preparing for leaving and leaving. So we're going to begin reading. And Beyond Birth and Death is from lectures of Srila Prabhupada. I believe these are lectures on Bhagavad Gita, and they were transcribed and edited a little bit. So this is Beyond Birth and Death, Chapter 2. Just as a student studies a subject for 4 or 5 years and then takes his examination and receives a degree, similarly, with the subject of life, if we practice during our lives for the examination at the time of death, and if we pass the examination, we are transferred to the spiritual world. Our whole life is examined at the time of death. So we've been talking a lot about this, and as I mentioned yesterday or the day before, some of the quotes we're going to be reading now are somewhat redundant, but that redundancy is necessary. And one of the, I think, most salient points, most valuable points that's been coming up is that here Prabhupada is comparing life to school. And everything in your class is always centered around your exams, and especially your final exams, because if you don't do well in your final exams, you won't get a good grade. And if you fail your final exam, you may have to take the class over. So Prabhupada's comparing life to school and death to a final exam. So you go to class, but you fail the final exam, so kind of your education becomes a failure. That's the idea. So in that analogy, if life is like a school and death is a final exam, then if we fail to die in Krishna consciousness, we failed the exam, and thus we failed, how should we say it? The purpose of going to school has been defeated. So the purpose of living has been defeated, because the purpose of living is to die in Krishna consciousness. And we discussed this point, how we asked you, remember I asked you all a question, I said, throughout your entire education, were you ever educated, at least outside of your church, in public education or private secular education, were you ever educated about how to die? Or even about death in general, what it is, how to look at it? Very little. In fact, yesterday we did, so I think we skipped this one, no? Anyway, we're reviewing. Yesterday, we did this yesterday. We're reviewing. We're reviewing new angles of vision. So when I asked that question, I said, did any of you in your education growing up ever get any education that prepared you for dying? Nobody raised their hand. And so from our angle of vision, and specifically from Prabhupada's angle of vision, he would say that modern education is a complete failure because they haven't prepared you for anything other than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And, so this is kind of the context in which Prabhupada preaches. Your education has prepared you for eating, sleeping, and mating, and defending. Basically, that's what animals do. So your education has only prepared you to live like an animal, but in a more scientific, engineered way, more technologically advanced than the animal. Not necessarily better off, not necessarily happier, but just more technologically advanced. You've taken technological advancement to be advancement, but from our point of view, advancement means spiritual advancement. Ultimately, how you leave your body in Krishna consciousness determines how advanced you are. So you're very intelligent, Nobel Prize, you die like a dog, you become a dog, your life is a failure. That's the general context. And then we had mentioned that so often in Prabhupada's preaching to new people, this was basically what he was telling them. Life is meant for going back to Godhead. Prepare now. Think of Krishna when you die. Be Krishna conscious when you die. Go back to Godhead. Your life's successful. Okay, so apparently my memory isn't that good, and we read this yesterday. But we're going to read it again, because if your memory is as bad as mine, you may have forgotten everything we read yesterday. So we're going to read it again. So the next one is from the 4th chapter of Beyond Birth and Death. Everyone then should try to go to that Dhamma, Paramam, Krishna's supreme abode. So Prabhupada must be speaking about that verse, Paramam Dhamma. Come back to my supreme abode. Let me look for the verse. We don't know exactly the verse, but it seems like Prabhupada is telling us it could be this verse. Let's see. No. Can't find it. Paramam Dhamma. Who knows the verse from the Gita? Hold on. We know there's a Param Dhamma verse, but Paramam Dhamma, that's different. I don't find anything. Yeah, anyway. Unfortunately, I don't. Anyway. Dhamma. Dhamma Paramam. All right, let's do it backwards. Prabhupada saying Dhamma Paramam. And okay. Yad Gatvana Nivartante Taddhamma Paramam Mama. That was what I was looking for. I'm going to read this verse to you, because this is the verse Prabhupada's talking about. Na tad bhakshayate suryo na shishanko na bhavakaha yad gatva na nivartante taddhamma paramam mama. That supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back to Godhead and you don't like it, too bad, you're never going to come back here. Sorry for the bad news. Once a devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, if we go back to Godhead, can we fall down from the spiritual world? Prabhupada said, it is possible, but it won't happen. What does that mean? It is possible, but it won't happen. Well, it is possible because living entity has independence. So you can always choose Maya over Krishna. But it's not going to happen is that once there, you won't fall. So that's good news. Only bad news if you get there and you think, I don't like the food here, or, I don't like my roommate, and I have to do this for eternity. I'm not, this was a mistake. I want to go back. Too late, you can't. Of course, that's a joke, and we know you will not want to come back here. So let's continue reading. Everyone then should try to go to that Dhamma Paramam, Krishna's supreme abode. Krishna himself comes to call us, and he gives us literatures as guidebooks and sends his bona fide representatives. We should take advantage of this facility given to human life. For one who reaches that supreme abode, penances, austerities, yogic meditations, and so on are no longer required. And for one who does not reach it, all penances and austerities are a useless waste of time. So, for those of you who don't like penances and austerities, here's your lecture. Says Prabhupada saying, if you do penance and austerity and it doesn't make you Krishna conscious, then there's no point. And if you're practicing Krishna consciousness, then austerity is independent of bhakti, there's no point. The only austerity for us is our austerity is doing whatever pleases Krishna. You know what one of our biggest austerities is? One of our biggest austerities is doing things that we don't like to do that are good for our Krishna consciousness. Oh, I don't want to do it. I know I should do it. I know it'll be good for me, but it's so hard and I'm not very Krishna conscious. And that's one of the big austerities. We have to do some things we don't like to do because they're essential practices of bhakti. Another huge austerity for us. So in Prabhupada's saying, you don't have to do austerities, not exactly true. It's just not austerities like sitting next to a fire in the sun or taking a bath in the middle of the winter and breaking the ice and things like that, and laying on broken glass, those kind of austerities, no. But we do austerities. Another big austerity is to actually listen to your japa instead of letting your mind relax and float downstream, so to speak. The Beatles sang a song, turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream. So sometimes that's what devotees do when they chant japa. Okay, it's time to chant japa. Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream. Yeah, that's what we do. So the austerity, one big austerity for us is to listen to our japa. And then, so we have doing what we don't like to do, that's good for us, or not doing what we like to do because it's not good for us, listening to our japa. And then the other thing Prabhupada said, tomorrow never knows is a song. I thought it was Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Turn off your mind. Marco, you're not old enough to know this. It's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, isn't it? I had an art class when I was in high school, when I was 17 or 18, and the art teacher, she'd always come late. It was the first class of the day, and we'd be waiting outside the classroom because she was high. She took time to smoke her marijuana. Those were the days, believe it or not. And she'd come into class and she'd say, okay, students, we're going to play Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And I just want you to draw whatever you feel, whatever comes to you. That was what it was like being educated in the late 60s. Anyway, I forget what song it is. Not important. But the third austerity, and Prabhupada said, the greatest austerity, greater than the yogis meditating and sitting in snow and so forth, is to go out and preach to people who really are not that interested, which is most everyone, to give them Krishna. It's like going into prison and telling the prisoners how great the policemen are, how great the police department is. All these guys who arrested you, who made your life miserable. We're going to give classes and tell you, you need to really learn how to love these guys because these guys are the best. It's preaching something like that. It's an LSD song. Oh, but it's not Lucy in the Sky. I've been corrected. Tomorrow Never Knows is the song. Okay, so I am honored to be corrected. That means I forgot everything about the material world after becoming a devotee. So this proves, because I don't know the name of that song. But I'm going to double check, Marco. I'm going to Google it just to make sure. Okay, so we're going to continue reading. I'll read over what I just said. For one who reaches that supreme abode, penances, austerities, yogic meditations, and so on are no longer required. It's not... You remember yesterday I told you that when... when Gop Kumar met Krishna, Krishna was crying profusely and kissing him? And Gop Kumar, what do you think Gop Kumar was doing? Oh, of course, Gop Kumar was... Krishna was coming and kissing him, and he was sitting meditating, doing pranayam. Of course he wasn't doing that. That's Prabhupada's point, that there's all these things you might have to do to get purified, but when you go back to Godhead, you don't do those things. It's like you take a boat to get across the river, but when you get across the river, you don't take the boat. You go, oh, let's drive the boat on the land. No. For one who reaches that supreme abode, penances, austerities, yogic meditations, and so on are no longer required. And for one who does not reach it, all penances and austerities are a useless waste of time. So what does Prabhupada mean? Penances and austerities that aren't awakening your Krishna consciousness. So what's the point? The human form of life is an opportunity to get this boon. And it is the duty of the state, parents, teachers, and guardians to elevate those who have acquired this human form of life to attain this perfection of life. Have you ever heard Prabhupada say, don't have children like cats and dogs? You must have heard, but if you haven't heard, Prabhupada would say that often. What did Prabhupada mean? Don't have children like cats and dogs. So the first thing that comes to mind is said, oh, cats and dogs have unrestricted sex. Actually, they don't. They have sex, but humans have unrestricted. The animals do it by season. So did Prabhupada mean, well, no, they have sex and they're not married. Well, a lot of animals take care of their kids. And the husbands stick around. They don't leave. What Prabhupada meant is the cats and dogs are not training their children to be Krishna conscious. So if you have children, you don't train them to be Krishna conscious, then you're having children like cats and dogs. I mean, there could be other aspects to that, but that's the main point. If you're going to have children, you only reason to have children, only reason to bring someone in this world is to help them get out of this world. And if you bring them in this world and you can't get them out of this world, then you're having children like cats and dogs. That was Prabhupada's point, right? So, we live in a very sex-crazed society, and Prabhupada was always trying to tell us, no, the purpose of sex is to have a child who you can send back to Godhead. That's the only purpose. So for us who are very conditioned by free love, free sex, that idea is like, I don't know about that. We fight it. You see, like, when you share this with people, a lot of people say, they fight that idea. To them, that idea is like Victorian. But it's actually just a fact. And so Prabhupada's making this point. If you have sex for any other purpose than getting those kids back to Godhead, then it's basically animalistic life. So, purpose of sex, have children. Purpose of children, duty of the parents, send them back to Godhead. That's it. Sorry for the bad news, but of course, Krishna Karshan is going to say, but, yeah, there may be so many buts. But anyway, I'm just explaining this point here, why Prabhupada said, simply eating, sleeping, mating, and quarreling like cats and dogs is not civilization. Why does he always use this cats and dogs? Because he's trying to distinguish, as a human being, you do A, B, and C. And if you don't do A, B, and C, then you're just doing D, E, and F, which is what the dogs do. So how do we distinguish you from the cats and dogs if you don't do A, B, and C? If you only do D, E, and F? That's Prabhupada's point. We should properly utilize the human form of life and take advantage of this knowledge to prepare ourselves in Krishna consciousness, so that 24 hours of the day we will be absorbed in Krishna, and at death at once transfer to the spiritual sky. So I've told you before that once I wrote Prabhupada a letter, I wasn't able to be absorbed 24 hours a day in thinking of Krishna, because I was managing, have to think of this, think of that, do this, do that. Super, super busy. Not a whole lot of time for hearing and chanting. So I wrote Prabhupada and said, I'm doing a lot of service, but I'm not thinking of Krishna. If I did less, if I wasn't so busy, then I could think of Krishna. So should I do less so I can think of Krishna more? That was kind of a stupid question, but anyway, I got a good answer. Sometimes you ask stupid questions, but you get good answers. If you ask the stupid question to the right person, you'll get a good answer. And then the first thing that Prabhupada said, and it actually shocked me. I don't know if you'll think this answer is shocking, but I'll give it to you, and then I'll explain why I was shocked. Prabhupada said, the whole point of everything is to remember Krishna. And when I read that, I was thinking, I never think of Krishna. I just think, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to buy this, we have to buy that, have to organize this, organize that, clean this, clean that, get the devotees out in Sankirtan, get the books shipped, get the money to the bank. These are all the things I was thinking about. So when Prabhupada said, the whole point of everything is, he didn't say the whole point of everything is to think of Krishna. He said the whole point of everything is to be absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. I was like, my God, absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, I'm a total failure. I never think of Krishna. So when I read that, it actually felt like thunder. Like I felt like thunder was striking my body. How should I say it? I was a bit shocked when I read that. So I was thinking, this is the point of Krishna consciousness? I've been a devotee like a year. I've never done this. Absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. And so here, with what Prabhupada's saying, it completes that, or it clarifies that. Let's read it again. We should properly utilize this human form of life and take advantage of this knowledge to prepare ourselves in Krishna consciousness, so that 24 hours a day we will be absorbed in Krishna and at death at once transfer to the spiritual sky. There it is. So again, you have to do it now to do it then. If you don't do it then, if you don't do it now, how are you going to do it then? If you do it now, naturally you'll do it then. That's the message. It keeps coming up again and again, doesn't it? También, también, again and again. Anuradha is translating in Spanish. Maybe I should speak Spanish, then she doesn't have to translate. But problem is, if I speak Spanish, no one in Mexico will understand, because I don't really know how. But también, también, again. Yeah, okay, so Kamaniya reminded me that I'm right now reading what we read yesterday. And so where did we actually leave off, Kamaniya? Was Isopanishad the last thing we read? All right, let's read it, just because new angles of vision. And unless you remember everything that you hear, it doesn't hurt to reread it. So we'll read the next one. And this is Isopanishad Mantra 17, and this is from the purport. I don't know if it's the entire purport. Maybe not, but it's a purport that relates to the topic of dying. But we should read the verse. Otherwise, it's not in full context. So give me a moment. I have my Vedabase. If you don't have Vedabase, you should get it. And there are two ways to get it. One on the black market and one on the white market. And you can pay for it. It's like $23 or something, or $27. But I will say this. When it first came out, it was $400. So if you're huffing and puffing and thinking that's so expensive, well, it helps the archives, and it's not that expensive. And then you get all of Prabhupada's books on your computer or on your phone. And you get more than his books. You get all the biographies, and there's so much there. And the other way to get it is somebody has it and they give it to you. So here's verse 17, which Prabhupada is the purport we're going to be reading. Bhayor anilam amritam atedam bashmantam shariram om krito smara kritam smara krito smara kritam smara. You like that? Isn't that cool? Om krito smaram krit. Om krito smaram kritam smara krito smara kritam smara. What does smara mean? It means remember. So I'll read the translation. You'll understand what he's saying. Remember. Remember what? Krito. Remember what I've done. Let this temporary body be burnt to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, in other words, he's saying, I'm okay dying. He's saying, if it's time to die, okay, let it happen. That's what he's saying. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you. So that's the prayer of the devotee. Okay, if I must die, that's fine. Just remember all my Krishna conscious activities so that I can go to you. And now we'll read the purport. In this mantra, this is, how many if you can put this up? In this mantra, or maybe you already put it up. I'm not sure. Yeah, so you put up the purport, 17. In this mantra, the living entity prays to enter the spiritual kingdom of God after relinquishing his material body and material air. The devotee prays to the Lord to remember his activities and the sacrifices he has performed before his material body is turned into ashes. He makes this prayer at the time of death with full consciousness of his past deeds and of the ultimate goal. One who is completely under the rule of material nature remembers the heinous activities he performed during the existence of his material body, and consequently, he gets another material body after death. That's pretty sad. We were saying yesterday that your life flashes by you. So just imagine you've done so many stupid things in your life. That's what you're going to have to see at death. And if you've done so many Krishna conscious things in your life, that's what you're going to see. So the movie you're going to see at death is dependent on what you did. That's a pretty heavy statement, isn't it? Think about it. Like all these stupid things you think about, or we think about, and all the stupid things we do, we should stop, because you don't want those things in your mind at the time of death. So we could think whatever you want to be thinking of at the time of death, well, think about that now and do it now, because that's what you're going to think about. So, it's like, okay, I'm going to see a movie at the time of death. Really? What movie are you going to see? I'm going to see the movie of my life. Okay, that's interesting. So what kind of movie do you want to see? You want to see a Krishna conscious movie? Yeah, Prabhu, I want to see a Krishna conscious movie. No problem. Just act in Krishna consciousness. That's what you'll remember at the time of death. That's the movie you'll see, and everything will be good. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that simple? You're going to see the movie of your life. So make your life the way you want the movie to come out. Make your life the way you want to be thinking of at the time of death. And the cheating mind says, I just need to enjoy, but when I die, I'll think of Krishna. But that's not what we're hearing here. No, Prabhupada keeps saying, no, you have to do it now. You can't cheat the system. Okay, let's read on. Unlike the simple animals who have no developed mind, the dying human being can remember the activities of his life like dreams at night. Therefore, his mind remains surcharged with material desires. And consequently, he cannot enter into the spiritual kingdom with a spiritual body. It doesn't mean he gets a spiritual body and they won't let him in. It means he cannot enter the kingdom of God, and he can't get a spiritual body with which to enter the kingdom of God. The devotees, however, remember we were talking about how every body is the fulfillment of a mentality? And I don't know if you saw yesterday, I posted a picture of a beautiful bird. Like the bird had a turquoise blue head and just incredible colors, wings. It was like a work of art, Krishna's work of art. And I said, what do you think this living entity was in his past life to get a body like that? And people said different things, maybe he was a bird watcher. And I said, maybe he liked to dress up. Maybe he liked to be the center of attention. And then Chaturātma said, I'm definitely going to become a bird like that in my next life, because Chaturātma likes to dress up. So we've been talking, so I was looking at this bird body and I was thinking, this is exactly what we've been talking about. And this body is amazing. What kind of mentality did this living entity have to get a body that's like, you're like dressed up for the ball every day? It's just like incredible colors. And one devotee said, maybe he was an artist. And so if we take that idea that every mentality creates a body, you want to live in the water, fish, you want to fly in the air, you want to be big and tough like a boxer, maybe you become a rhinoceros. Or Prabhupada said you want to eat meat, you become a tiger. And Prabhus and Matajis, if you want to go back to Godhead, you have to have a body with which you can go there. Otherwise, you can't get in this body. Just like if you want to live in the ocean, you have to have a fish body. So if you're Krishna conscious, you create that spiritual body. That's all it means, simple. You have Krishna conscious mentality, then you get a body to suit that mentality. You know, sometimes we think in this life, oh, I have this body, and this body likes to do certain things, and the things the body likes to do are not Krishna conscious, and we think, I wish my body didn't like this, because this is not helpful. But all it is a manifestation of a mentality, and the body suits the mentality. That's it. So, learning that, this is teaching us how to get a spiritual body. If you purely want to love Krishna, then Krishna will give you a body to do that. And if you don't, he'll give you a body that does something else. Pretty simple, right? Really simple. Although, so many people can't understand it, but it's simple. Yeah. Okay. Now here's the beautiful thing. You may have forgotten, we read this yesterday, it's the last sentence of the second paragraph. Even if at the time of death a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices. But even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotees. So the devotee's dying, and he's saying, Krishna, I'm dying and I don't mind, and I just want to remind you that I'm your devotee, and I just want to remind you that I did a lot of things for you. So if you could just, like, before I go, just make sure you look it up in the book or you don't forget, because I want to go. I want to be with you. That's the idea. But if you forget to remind Krishna, do not worry, because Krishna does not have to be reminded. He will not forget. That's beautiful, right? One time, a devotee I believe he was, I believe this was what happened. He was a sannyasi and he couldn't maintain his sannyas, so he gave up his sannyas. He actually sent his danda back to Prabhupada. And, obviously he felt very embarrassed, guilty, shameful, whatever. And then eventually he came back to meet Prabhupada, as a grihastha. And Prabhupada was very happy to see him, and, he felt that maybe Prabhupada had rejected him or would reject him. And so Prabhupada was very open arms and very accepting, as was Srila Prabhupada's nature. And he said something like, Prabhupada said, so you want to do this or that service? And he said something like, oh, I can do service, you didn't reject me. And Prabhupada said, no, you did so much service. How can I never can forget that service that you did. So this is exactly the same thing that Prabhupada's saying about Krishna, that once you do that service, it's not like Krishna's ungrateful. Like we might do that, you're nice to me, and then you do something to disturb me, and then I forget that you were nice, and I just focus on how you've disturbed me. But I used to do so many things for you. Yeah, but you did this. And so the thing I don't like tends to occupy my mind. Krishna's not like that. So everything we do positive in Krishna consciousness, Krishna remembers it. The Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotees. So Krishna's not ungrateful, that's the point. And so even if I do something bad, he's still grateful for what I've done. And that's Prabhupada's nature also. We may have done bad things, given up sannyas, whatever, but we come back, we want to do service, and Prabhupada remembers the service we did and overlooks the mistake. That's the nature of Krishna. That's the nature of a pure devotee. And so, chalk up your devotional points, do more devotional service, and you'll have more points, more things for Krishna to remember. And don't dwell so much on how, I fell short of the goal, Krishna maybe won't appreciate me. No, he doesn't really care. He just sees what you've done. So Krishna Karshani has a comment or a question. Often people say that they want to do something because they don't want to regret it at the moment of death. That they do not do it. Or they did not do it. So I'm going to do this because when I die, I don't want to die having not done it. How to see it? In the Krishna conscious perspective, it seems that on the deathbed, a devotee who did not fulfill some desires may regret it, and it may not let him come back to Krishna. So you're talking about, let me read this. Often people say they want to do something because they don't want to regret it in the moment of death. Oh, you mean, I understood it differently. You mean, I always wanted to go to Disneyland, and then I'm dying, and I never got to go to Disneyland, so at the time of death, I'm thinking of Disneyland instead of Krishna land. That's what you mean. I'm thinking of Disney World instead of Krishna World. I think they're building a Krishna World in Bangalore or somewhere in India. Yes. So I think we had talked about this in the class on balance, that anything we do, whether it's to go to Disney World or not, of course, generally devotees don't go to Disney World unless they have children who are dying to go to Disney World. And they have a lot of money because it's not cheap. But what Krishna Karshani is saying is, what if I've tried to control a desire and it's very strong and I didn't fulfill it? Will, at the time of death, that desire be there? And will I regret that I haven't fulfilled it? It's possible. It depends what the desire is. It's possible. So the idea is figure out how to fulfill that desire in a way that won't impede your Krishna consciousness. It may be a desire that can't be engaged in Krishna consciousness or can't be fulfilled in Krishna consciousness. And so trying to fulfill that desire may be detrimental to your bhakti. So then you have to tolerate it. But if you can fulfill the desire and still be Krishna conscious, then yeah, it may be necessary. So at the time of death, you're not thinking, oh, I never did this. That's true. But having said that, I would think that if you practice Krishna consciousness your whole life, you're pretty much going to go into KC mode at the time of death, and you're not going to be thinking, I never went to Disney World, how can I die? Probably it's not going to happen. That would be my estimate. Okay, well, let's give an example. So you're like 40, 50 years old, you're a brahmachari, and then, you hit like 53 and a half, and all of a sudden, bing, 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 you start thinking, I never got married, and all of a sudden this intense desire to marry is there. And everyone's saying, Prabhu, you're 53, it's like too late, don't do it. It's just too late. And if you raise a family now, you have your first kid when you're 55, and they won't even graduate college until you're like 75, and so it makes sense, and you tolerate it, but still you're lamenting, oh, I should have got married when I was younger. I didn't understand, and now I've been renounced, but it's really artificial. Probably at the time of death, you're not going to be thinking, I should have got married. Let me come back again so I can get married and do it right. I doubt you're going to think that way, because your whole life you're preparing to be Krishna conscious. It's unlikely that that unfulfilled desire would occupy you at the time of death. So that's the other side of the equation. So you have two sides of the equation. Yes, you want to fulfill your desires in a Krishna conscious way so they don't occupy your mind. But at the same time, if you can't, or the desires that cannot be engaged, it's probably unlikely that that's going to preoccupy you at the time of death. Yeah, I mean, just realistically speaking, could you imagine this brahmachari in his deathbed and said, "Do you have any last desire?" They asked that to Prabhupada, and he said, "No, I have no desire." "Do you have any last desire?" "Yes, I wanted to get married and I couldn't." And then he dies at that moment, thinking of the ideal wife. And then he becomes that wife in his next life. It's probably not going to happen. I mean, you could say, could happen. But if he was pretty Krishna conscious, probably it's not going to happen. So, there are two sides of the equation. And I think the other answer is, you can't control everything in your life. So there may be some desires that just you can't fulfill. Like for example, some people just have certain karma that certain desires never get satisfied. They never have a nice family. They never have money. They never accomplish much. And, if you go to an astrologer, it's like right there in the chart that you're never going to be rich. You're never going to have a happy family. I mean, you try, but it's never going to be great. You can try to get money, but you'll never have a lot. You can try to be expert at this or that, but it's not your nature to be expert. So what can you do? You'll have these unfulfilled desires. You have to accept that it's not going to happen. So sometimes it's like that. You can't do anything. So, Bhader Soma. What about the idea of the bucket list? Are we able to fulfill some material desires and then give them up, knowing that they are not the goal of life, but also having a desire to experience them? As long as it's not an impediment to bhakti, yeah, that's exactly what we do. You have to fulfill them in a way that helps you in Krishna consciousness. So, and you have to figure out how to do that. You like to cook? Cook for Krishna. I love to cook. Cook for Krishna. Start a restaurant. Start a bakery. I love to make music. Okay, sing for Krishna. I love to paint. Okay, paint for Krishna. Don't paint crazy abstract paintings. Don't paint nude paintings. Paint Krishna. Okay, yeah, I love to paint. I'll do that. When we talk about material desires, what are we really talking about? Ultimately, is it like going to a movie every night, watching movies every night? That's not really, what we're talking about. We're talking about wife, children, husband, family, home, comforts. These are the things I need. So fine, get them. Prabhupada said, live comfortably, but not extravagantly. Well, what does comfortable mean? It means take what you need so you don't go crazy, so you're peaceful. When Prabhupada would marry his couples, he would say, be peaceful. So the point is, if you need a certain level of sense gratification and you don't have it, you're going to be disturbed. So you have to move up to this point where you're peaceful. But if you go beyond that point, you're going to also be disturbed up here. You're going to be disturbed down here, and you're going to be disturbed up here. So because I'm disturbed down here, then I think, okay, well, I need to move my material facilities up here. No problem. The problem is when you move them up here and you don't need it. Then, if I go from here to here, then I can remember Krishna. When I start going up here, I start forgetting Krishna. So get married and be peaceful. Okay, I get married, I'm peaceful. Now, if I try to exploit my grihastha ashram for increased sense gratification, then I just become agitated. I've gone too high and I become disturbed up here. So I'm disturbed down here, single man, I need a family, I want to have kids, I want to have a nice home and comforts. I get it, I'm peaceful, everything's nice, I'm happy, We're preaching, we have deities. Now I want to increase my sense gratification. Then I go beyond the threshold, I become disturbed. So Prabhupada used the word peaceful, and Prabhupada used the word comfortable. Live comfortably. This is the mantra. Live comfortably, not extravagantly. That's a hard word to pronounce, comfortably. Comfortably. Live comfortably. Comfortably. Live comfortably, but not extravagantly. That is the mantra. And in regard to Krishna Karshani's question, there may be some desires that if you try to fulfill them, there's no way to fulfill them and be Krishna conscious. They have to be given up. There's some things that are just too tamasic to engage in Krishna consciousness. How can I engage wine drinking in Krishna service? Very easily you can engage it. Don't drink it. That's all you can do. No, but Prabhu, I can think Krishna is the taste of liquid. Yeah, you could. But it's against our principles. So that's not something you can engage in Krishna service. You just have to give it up. So some things will not be engageable. But practically everything else is engageable, because practically everything else is not sinful. Eating, yeah, you engage that. Sleeping, just sleep what you need. Live in a simple house, not a big mansion. Mating, for having children in Krishna consciousness. Defending. Krishna is your protector. He'll defend you. In all your talents, you engage them. That's the idea. Is that okay? Did that answer the question? Krishna Karshani says, my husband sometimes is saying that he has a desire to have kids. And because we don't have, he's afraid that he will have to take another body. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's possible. It's something to consider. The desire to have children is very strong. So, but I would say, based on similar situations which Prabhupada dealt with, that he would always say, if you're Krishna conscious, Krishna will be your child. Or, a lady couldn't remarry, could get married. He said, well, make Krishna your husband. He's the best husband, he'll never leave you. Some husband left a lady, and Prabhupada said, well, make Krishna your husband, he'll never leave you. So, you can make Krishna your child like that. What you say may have some truth, but I think your husband's strong enough that when he leaves his body, I don't know. I just hope he doesn't think of guitars when he leaves his body. That's probably more likely he'll think of a guitar than a child. And he'll become a guitar in his next life. But he probably would be happy being a guitar. So that might be more of a problem than the child. But I think, okay, we're just joking. It was not a curse. Harm, you're not going to become a guitar in your next life. I hope not. Hare Krishna. So he's saying, well, if I became this kind of guitar, it might be okay. I think if you practice Krishna consciousness, it seems, I don't want to say I think, it seems from everything Prabhupada has said and Shastra says, if you practice Krishna consciousness sincerely, by the end of your life, no matter what your attachment is, it's not going to be very strong. Your attachment to Krishna will be stronger. So what you say does have some truth. There is some lamentation, there is a longing, an unfulfilled desire. But if you're very Krishna conscious, you're steady in your sadhana and service, then at the time of death, it's unlikely that any other attachment is going to preoccupy you. And it's most likely that your Krishna consciousness is going to preoccupy you. Maybe your husband will think of his Giriraj. So that's possible also, right? Instead of thinking I never had kids, he'll think of his Giriraj. So Radha Saki says, can we stop desires completely from invading us? Yeah. No, you can't stop desire. What Prabhupada said, Prabhupada used to say, if you're alive, you have desire. And only a stone doesn't have desire. So I think you meant the question, can we stop material desires? Well, we can on advanced levels of bhakti, but until we're that advanced, we have to defend ourselves from material desires so they don't influence us. They don't affect us. But you know the verse, Raso Varjam Raso Pyasya Param Dushta Nivartate. It's such an important verse. Because if you think practically, okay, now we're talking about guitars, okay, and maybe you can relate this to your experience, but Paran, he plays guitar and he likes guitar and he's good at it. And so I also grew up playing guitar. And so there was this music store I used to go to, and I finally bought my first acoustic guitar there. And you'd walk around the music store and you'd say, can I try this guitar? And they had all the guitars hanging. And they had a room where you'd go in with your teacher, and you go in with the salesman. The salesman was the owner of the store. It was just a small shop. And this room had incredible acoustics. So guitars always sounded better in that room. It was a very live room. And what he would do, he'd always bring, you say, I want this guitar. The guitar I bought, I think it cost around $300, and I bought it in 1966. So $300 in 1966, can somebody Google this and say, $300, what's $300 worth? $300 in 1966, what's it worth now? I'd just be interested because I think it's close to about 2,500 or 3,000, because I was working for $1.25 an hour, and now the minimum wage is like 8. In some places, the minimum wage is like 15 or 20. So if somebody could just Google that, I would be interested in knowing. So what he would do, that's like really frustrating. You'd say, can I try this guitar? It was like the $300 guitar or the $250 guitar. He would always bring in a better, more expensive guitar. And it just like ruined everything. Because I thought the guitar that I wanted was really good. And then he'd say, well, try this guitar. And you play this guitar, and it was way better. And then he'd say, okay, try your guitar. And in comparison, $300.96 is $23.95. So that's a pretty expensive guitar, right? And Param's saying, where's that guitar now? It's probably worth more because it's used. I said, I gave it to the temple and they sold it. That's where it is. Hare Krishna. $23.95. Yeah. So it's like 8, 9 times. Yeah, I was right. It's about 9 times. Crazy, huh? So you'd play this like really expensive guitar. And then he'd say, okay, play your guitar. And then you play your guitar. And all of a sudden, the guitar that you thought sounded good, it doesn't sound good anymore. And I'd be like, why are you doing that? I don't have money for this other guitar. And now this guitar doesn't sound good. Isn't that funny? And so, have you had that experience in your life where you think something is good until you actually experience something which is really good, and then you realize, oh, what I had is not so good. I just got a microphone. This devotee who's an engineer said, you should get this microphone. So it's made in Latvia, and some devotees have connections, so they got the mic at a good price. And then they were so kind, they gave me the mic. And so I just got home, a few weeks ago, and I just first tried it out a few days ago. And when I heard the microphone, I was like, I'd never heard a mic this good before. And then Badahari came over a few days later. He had some things in my house he was picking up. And I said, listen to this mic. I had some recordings. And he's like, oh my God, that's incredible. So that's called Raso Varjam Rasopyasya. That's called higher taste. And so as soon as you get that higher taste, it's like everything, all my other microphones, throw them in the garbage. They're useless. This one is amazing. It's like, the cotton's out of my ears. When I listen to this, it's like, this is like another league. And now you go back to your other microphones, like, I don't sound so good. So that's the principle. That, the best way to overcome desire is to taste nectar. And when you taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness, then what happens? Everything else doesn't taste good anymore. And in absence of that nectar, then all you're left with is, that cheaper guitar or the cheaper microphone. And when you're not comparing it to the better one, it starts sounding good. You can have this mic and you can get it in Latvia, and she can get it for you for 450 euros. But she probably won't give it to you like she gave it to me. But if you get this mic, Krishna Karshini wants to incarnate as, what's her name? Celine Dion? Yeah. She could incarnate as Celine Dion, she'd be happy. But with this mic, you might be able to compete with her. So this is a super important principle. So use this microphone, Marco, is only used for service, nothing else. And I've been doing some guided meditations. And this mic, oh my God, it sounds so pleasing to listen to. It's just like, wow. You just listen, we do these guided meditations. Let go, give up what you can't control, surrender to the holy name. Sounds beautiful. So yes, we use it for Krishna, not for sense gratitude, not for baby, I love you. Ding, 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 ding. Baby, I love you. No. Then that mic becomes material. But if it's Krishna, I love you, then it's spiritual. So Radha Saki, a devotee is a devotee. The life of the devotee is like he's a nectar churner. He's like, our life is all about churning nectar. That's what we do. We're just nectar churning, like day in and day out. Nectar churning. And Param hit the nail on the head. He said the danger of musicians is they always want better and better guitar, or better and better microphone, or better and better this synthesizer, better and better this. Yeah, it's crazy. And there's always something better. God, when I was young, you go to the guitar store, and I think there was like Fender guitars, Gibson guitars, Guild guitars, Martin guitars, and maybe Washburn. And that was all there was. That's all there was. And now you go and there's like so many, so you could, I can get this one, it sounds like this, that, yeah. It's the mode of passion. It's crazy. There's always something better. So, Kamaniya says she has experience of good mics. Yeah, it's amazing. So, when you hear the good mic, then you know that the other mic that you thought was good isn't as good as you thought. When you experience Krishna consciousness, the pleasure in Krishna consciousness, then you realize what you thought was pleasure really wasn't. And that's why Jamunacharya said, when I think of my past association with my girlfriends, my mistresses, I just spit at the thought, because when I think of it, I realize that wasn't pleasure, because now I'm experiencing pleasure of Krishna consciousness in relation to that. That's not pleasure. So that's the secret, Radhasaki, and without that, can you control desires? Shastra says, no, you can't. Doesn't matter how much you know, it doesn't matter how austere you are. Eventually, those desires are going to grab you, strangle you, pull you. Ooh. That's what the Shastra says. Even you're a yogi, even you're a tapasvi, meditating in the forest, and then you hear. You're meditating in the forest, there's no one around, and then you hear somebody with ankle bells walking by. And you're meditating, and you open your eyes, and there's an apsara. So beautiful you can't describe, and you give up your meditation. Or you're Takaharitas, Hare Krishna, and Maya herself comes, and you keep chanting, because you have higher taste. That's the Shastra. Okay, so let's read some more. Otherwise, one of the purposes of these classes is to read from Prabhupada's books, because we don't read his books enough. So, Kamini, it's the next one. This is JSD. JSD is Journey of Self-Discovery. It's a nice name. This is entitled Sinful Man. Sinful man, should be a sinful man suffers a death, and devotees die without anxiety. Oh, this is a nice one. Now Krishna says, Dhiras tatra namuyati, Bhagavad Gita 2:13. A sober man, all right, I have just remembered something, and I have to take a commercial break because it just came to my mind. Commercial break, two things. Today at 10:30, we're doing Kirtan and a little talk. And it's on Kirtan Mela ISKCON Juhu Facebook page. Kirtan Mela ISKCON Juhu, if you want to attend. It's going to be after we finish class at 9:30, it'll be an hour later. It may be on my Facebook page, but I haven't got confirmation from Radha Priya, and I don't personally know how to send it. So I have to check with her. She probably knows how to send it. But if you don't see it on my Facebook page, it's Kirtan Mela ISKCON Juhu. They wanted me to do a Kirtan, so that's at 10:30. That's commercial number one, or public announcement number one. Public announcement number two is, if I ever announce that on Saturday class is at 5, don't believe me, because it's at 6. And I always say it's at 5 because it started at 5. Then they had daylight savings in Australia and it went to 6. And I got 5 in my head. That's called confirmation bias. You get something in your head and you believe it's true even when it isn't. So I told you yesterday, 5 o'clock, I told Guru Nishta, put on the schedule every Saturday at 5 o'clock we do Australia. It's 6 o'clock. So if I ever say class on Saturday is at 5, don't believe me, because it's at 6. And hopefully the 6 will replace the 5. But if it doesn't, I'm just telling you, 5 means 6 when I say Saturday at 5. If I say another day at 5, it means 5. But if I say Saturday at 5, that actually means 6 Eastern Standard Time. So I just had to make that announcement because yesterday morning, I again said class at 5, when in fact it was at 6. Okay, so now we can read. Now, Krishna says, Dhiras tatra namuyanti, a sober man is not perplexed at the time of death. If you prepare yourself for death, why should you be perplexed? For example, if in your childhood and boyhood you prepare yourself nicely, if you become educated, then you will get a nice job, a nice situation, and be happy. Similarly, if you prepare yourself in this life for going back home, back to Godhead, then where is your perplexity at the time of death? There's no perplexity. You'll know, I'm going to Krishna. I'm going back home, back to Godhead. Now, I'll not have to change material bodies. I'll have my spiritual body. Now I shall play with Krishna and dance with Krishna and eat with Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. To prepare yourself for the next life. There it is. There it is. I gave a class in Mayapur about this topic. And I said, Prabhupada, when he was preaching, he was just thinking, I have to prepare these boys and girls for going back to Godhead. That's my mission. Get them out of here. They've been here too long. They're rotting in the material world. It's my mission. Get them out. Listen to this. It's another t-shirt. This is Krishna consciousness, to prepare yourself for the next life. What does Prabhupada mean? The next life with Krishna. To prepare yourself for the next life with Krishna. So isn't this nice? Because we're all thinking, oh, I'm not going to be Krishna conscious. I'm going to die, come back. Who knows? Maybe what will happen to me? And Prabhupada saying, you should know, I'm going to Krishna. I'm going back to Godhead. Now I'll not have to change material bodies. I'll have my spiritual body. Now I shall play with Krishna, dance with Krishna, eat with Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. To prepare yourself for the next life. Beautiful. I want to read one more sentence again. If you go up a little bit to the middle of the paragraph. Similarly, if you prepare yourself in this life for going back home, back to Godhead, then where is your perplexity at the time of death? Wow. Beautiful. So we've been saying this, but it's nice. I mean, I've been saying it. I've been deducing that from everything Prabhupada said, but now he's saying it directly. If you prepare yourself at the time of death, no problem. Exactly what Gauri said when she was dying. You can do this too. This is not difficult. That's basically, she's saying, don't worry, it's not as hard as you think. Where will there be perplexity at the time of death if you prepare yourself in Krishna consciousness? Yeah. Kamaniya said something funny. It's true. You know, sometimes you don't want a good mic because if you don't sing well, it picks up all the bad things. It magnifies the good, but it magnifies the bad. Yeah. But you can fix it with computer programs. So any of you can sound like Celine Dion with good software and a good engineer. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to continue reading. This is very encouraging. Don't you think this is encouraging? Sometimes a dying man cries out, because according to karma, those who are very, very sinful see horrible scenes at the time of death. The sinful man knows he is going to accept some abominable type of body. But those who are pious, the devotees, die without any anxiety. Foolish people say, you devotees are dying, and the non-devotees are also dying. So what is the difference? There is a difference. A cat catches her kitten in its mouth, and it also catches the mouse in its mouth. Superficially, we may see that the cat has caught both the mouse and the kitten in the same way, but there are differences of catching. The kitten is feeling pleasure. Oh, my mother is carrying me. And the mouse is feeling death. Oh, now I'm going to die. Well, the mouse wouldn't say it that way. The mouse would say, oh, now I'm going to die. Something like that. Just trying to entertain you a little bit. Hope you don't mind. This is the difference. So although both devotees and non-devotees die, there is a difference of feeling at the time of death, just like the kitten and the mouse. Don't think that both of them are dying in the same way. The bodily process may be the same, but the mental situation is different. So you become a devotee, and maybe you had this experience. You become a devotee, maybe you had this experience. I did. Your material body didn't go away. Did you have that experience? Yeah, I also had it, yeah. I thought when I become a devotee, like everything's going to change. Like I just won't have to eat and sleep, and all my desires will go, and I'm never going to get sick, and nothing's going to go bad, and I'm going to walk on water and float when I walk on the earth. And, you know, of course I'm exaggerating, but when we became devotees, we kind of thought that material nature wouldn't work on us, isn't it? Did you think like that? Sort of, some way, subtly, or not so subtly, that now I'm a devotee. And then something bad happens in your life and you think, I'm a devotee. Bad things aren't supposed to happen to devotees. And then later you realize, no, well, you have a material body, so you're going to get sick and you're going to get old and so on. So Prabhupada's saying, it's basically the same physical, not basically, it is the same physical process going on when you're leaving your body. But you're a devotee, so how it affects you is totally different. That's the idea. Physical process is the same. But the bad news is if we don't become Krishna conscious, then we're going to be affected like everyone else. And we're going to be frightened and panicky, like people are panicking now because of coronavirus. We'll be frightened and panicking. If you're frightened and panicking about coronavirus and you're still alive, then what about how are you going to deal with dying? One of the problems is that a lot of people are panicking about the coronavirus, which then makes them susceptible to it because the stress weakens your immune system. It's unfortunate, and it's an unfortunate paradox, but it's true. This one comedian said, the only thing that can kill you is the anxiety about the coronavirus, which then weakens your immune system, and then you get it. So, anyway, can we read some more? You have any question, comment? No. So, yes. So this is nice. So a devotee, he has the consciousness to be able to deal with so many difficulties. Okay, so let's read the next one. This is, again, from Journey of Self-Discovery. And this is 7. And this is entitled, All Species Exist to Fulfill the Desires of the Mind. So we've been talking about this. And so a lot of things that I've been talking about, like taking little things that Prabhupada has said and then bringing them together and expanding on them and making more succinct conclusions. But here, Prabhupada's doing what I was doing. And here's like the direct statement. I believe this is the direct statement about exactly every species is a creation of a mentality. This is so interesting. Yes, according to our mentality at the time of death, we get another apartment. The body's like an apartment. Another body. But the apartment is already there. Not that I'm creating the apartment. Your next body is being prepared. You don't have to prepare it according to your karma mentality. Your body's there. And the classes of apartments are fixed at 8,400,000. You have, ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice in your next life of 8,400,000 different bodies you can choose from. Wow, 8,400,000 sounds pretty good. It's like that's better than like a big department store. They had a show called The Twilight Zone, and in one series, The Twilight Zone was like, you'd go into Twilight Zone and everything was surreal in the Twilight Zone. Nothing happened. Things didn't happen according to the laws of nature. So one episode of Twilight Zone was you would go into this store and you'd go in with your wife and it's like a wax museum. And they'd have different couples, young couples. Different color hair, different size bodies, different everything. And you'd go around and you'd get to choose the kind of body you want. These old, 80-year-old couple. I like that one. And some big, strong guy and a big sexy woman. And then I don't know how it happened. And they get these young bodies. So it's a bit like that. Like you're choosing, they didn't have 8,400,000 and they only had humans. But you could imagine a store with 8,400,000 bodies and you're going in going, that one flies. I like to fly. That one swims. I like to swim. That one sleeps for 6 months a year. I like to sleep. That one has sex, like nonstop. I like that one. And you have one that combines all of these, 30 sex all day and sleeps and half a year and flies. So it's something like that you're thinking, what do you want out of life? And there's a body for you. This is so interesting. And the classes of apartments are fixed at 8,400,000, just like the hotel keeper. He has experience of his customers coming and wanting different kinds of facilities. So here Prabhupada's comparing the body to an apartment or a hotel room. So he has made all sorts of accommodations to oblige all kinds of customers. Similarly, this is God's creation. He knows how far a living entity can think. So he has made all these different species accordingly. When God thinks, come on, come here, nature obliges. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Nature is offering facility. God, Krishna, is sitting in the heart of the living entity as Paramatma, and he knows he wants this, so the Lord orders him, give him this apartment, and nature obliges. Yes, come on, here's your apartment. This is the real explanation. There it is, as succinctly and as direct as you're ever going to get it. That quote right there explains it all, and I want to read one sentence over again. This is the second sentence in the second paragraph. So he has made all sorts of accommodations to oblige all kinds of customers. Similarly, this is God's creation. He knows how far a living entity can think. So he has made all these different spaces accordingly. There it is. He knows what every living entity is thinking, and of all the living entities, what they could possibly think, it came out to 8,400,000 different thoughts of the kind of bodies they could want, and therefore nature, by his order, created all those bodies. So whenever you see a weird living entity, a weird body, you can think, but there was some entity that wanted that body, the cactus body with, don't touch me, leave me alone, I don't like you, sting, bloodsucker, I'm going to suck your blood, or whatever it is, crocodile, I'm going to kill you, you're food, you're going to be food, you're going to be my breakfast, So every, whatever, or lazy, or active, strong, horses love to run, whatever. So that's interesting. Sadhyarupa, ask your question tomorrow because it's kind of off topic. So I think we're going to end here because I will need now to go eat breakfast and then get ready for the next kirtan. So it's Twilight Zone 60s TV series, yeah. So Marco, can you find that series? Can you find the series where they get the new bodies? Marco's our new Google. He's Google personified. He knows everything. Find that series. It'd be nice to look at it for a few minutes, just for seeing how they were thinking about this. So we're at ISKCON. We're at Kirtan Mela, ISKCON Juhu, in 1 hour from now, if you want to join us. Okay, thank you for coming, and you're learning so much in these classes. You're learning about microphones and Celine Dion, and you're learning about Beatles songs. It's amazing how much you're learning, right? Deformities, it's bad karma. So, you have your choices and you have your karma. So your karma is how much you can pay for it. I want this body. Okay, you got the money? That body's more expensive. It's more beautiful. Can you pay for it? No, I can't. Okay, well, you're not going to get it. You can't pay for it. So they work together. Okay, everyone. Thank you, and we will see you maybe later or maybe tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.